I know we can pretty much negotiate every side of our life, that being social media, that being on our families or with the minions in our households. I know kids are the best negotiators out there.
Yep.
They'll close you every time. But I read an article a while back, and I actually wanted to ask you this question. So unfortunately nowadays we see social media bullying or high school or elementary school bullying. Like, how can we teach this young generation to negotiate their way out of being bullied, or if there is such a way?
Well, it depends on the bullying situation, right? So if that's a really, really tough question. So if it's a cyberbullying thing, a lot of times the person who is online saying these things, they're saying these things online because they're not comfortable saying it to you directly. And so, especially in the younger generations, face-to-face conversation is a lost art. Even when it's a friend, people are opting to connect online digitally versus actually going and meeting and spending physical time with their friends. And so when it comes to that cyberbullying situation, if it were Kai, my son who's 3, later on in his life, if you were in that situation, one of the things I would tell him to do is confront the person. And I shouldn't yet say the word confront. I should say have a conversation, because essentially what we're looking for is behavior change. And so then it turns into a negotiation of sorts. But it's important that we realize that in this conversation, there's only one outcome. You change your behavior. I'm not going to, at the end of the conversation, say, actually, you know what? You can still bully me a little bit. Right?
Yeah.
No, that's not an acceptable outcome. The conversation will end in you changing your behavior one way or another.
I like it. I mean, whenever if it would happen bullying, and the reason why I actually brought it up because it was the article that I read, and I moved to America at 17 years old by myself, and I felt like I was being bullied a little bit because my English wasn't the best in my senior year of high school. But I always left at it, and I said, "Oh, thank you. Have a great rest of the day. You too." Like, I
Hmm.
always kind of put it aside. So I always thought it as, I closed the deal myself. I took you off the picture. So sometimes we do have to do that in our lives. So we don't necessarily have to negotiate or find a happy medium every single time, I feel like. And correct me if I'm
Right.
wrong.
No, you're right. Because that's the thing. Because a lot of times people have the mistaken understanding that it has to be a win-win type of situation where you have to give up a little bit in order to get what you want. Not all the time. And especially in cases of abuse, there is no win-win. It's I win, you stop. That's it. And again, when it comes to having these conversations and determining whether or not you do that, you have to understand that, going back to that deathbed perspective, what would that person say, that version of yourself? Would you look back and say, you know what, I'm glad that I didn't say anything to my bully. I enjoyed being bullied for the rest of my life. No. Even if the conversation goes well, you would respect yourself more if you have that conversation. And another thing too is that when you think about bullies, imagine a third grade bully. A third grade bully will bully other third graders, second graders, first graders, kindergartners. But a third grade bully is unlikely to bully an eighth grader, because bullies aren't looking for challenges, they're looking for victims. And so if you make sure that you let them know that you're not going to be a victim, then they're going to move on to another target, because it's about power.
I like that. I like how you broke that down. Thank you for that.